Zaria Washington, a high-achieving 16-year-old at their prestigious Westridge Academy, felt the daily burden of being one of only 27 Black students in a school of 650. She was hyper-aware of the subtle but constant racial tensions, particularly with the new security officer, Thomas Keller. He had a reputation for excessive force, and Zaria had noticed how he singled out students of color for random searches. Zaria's mother, Vanessa Washington, was a formidable civil rights attorney known for securing major victories against police brutality. While Zaria admired her, she felt the pressure of her mother's legacy and hesitated to tell her about the escalating issues at school, wanting to protect her from more stress. One morning, Zaria was late for class after helping a freshman who had been racially profiled by Officer Keller. As she hurried down the hallway, Keller confronted her, his voice dripping with suspicion. When Zaria questioned him about a double standard after seeing him wave white students through while he had been searching two Black freshmen, he became enraged. Discreetly, Zaria started recording the interaction on her phone, a practice her mother had taught her. Keller, noticing the phone, demanded she hand it over, claiming it was against school policy. Zaria calmly corrected him, citing the student handbook. As other students began to record the escalating confrontation, Keller's face contorted with anger. He lunged at her, grabbing her wrist and slamming her into the lockers. As she hit the cold metal, a cut opened above her eye, and her phone clattered to the floor, still recording. He hissed a racial slur at her, a sound captured on her phone's microphone. As Keller handcuffed the bleeding Zaria, he claimed she was resisting and assaulting an officer. But in the midst of her pain and humiliation, Zaria noticed a small red light on the security camera in the corner of the hallway, a glimmer of hope that everything had been captured. What she didn't know was that her mother, receiving an urgent text, was already on her way, prepared to fight not just for her daughter, but against the very system that had failed her. Meanwhile, in a courtroom across town, Vanessa Washington was delivering a powerful closing argument in a civil rights case when she received an urgent text from one of Zaria's friends. Officer Keller attacked Zaria. She's bleeding and in handcuffs. The words sent a jolt of fear through her. Requesting a continuance from the judge, she raced to her car, her mind consumed with the tactical advice she had given Zaria over the years about how to interact with law enforcement. She desperately hoped her daughter had been given the chance to use it. Arriving at Westridge Academy, Vanessa found the front office receptionist hesitant to let her see Zaria, claiming the principal had requested no interruptions. Vanessa, her professional demeanor replaced by a mother's fierce determination, issued a cold warning. "My 16-year-old daughter is reportedly in handcuffs and bleeding. I am her mother and her attorney. If you don't direct me to her location immediately, the lawsuit I file will include your name for obstructing a minor's right to parental representation." Inside Principal Parker's office, the scene was exactly what Vanessa had feared. Zaria sat in a chair, cuffed and with visible injuries. Principal Parker looked flustered, while Officer Keller stood over Zaria, his posture intimidating. "Remove those handcuffs from my daughter immediately," Vanessa demanded, her voice cutting through the tension. Principal Parker tried to placate her, claiming they were following protocol, but Vanessa was having none of it. She pointed out the violations of her daughter's civil rights and documented Zaria's injuries with her phone. Keller, realizing who she was dealing with, attempted to defend his actions, but Vanessa's questions were relentless. At one point, Principal Parker leaned forward and tried to make a deal, offering to resolve the matter discreetly for the sake of the school's reputation and Zaria's future. Vanessa's answer was an emphatic no. There would be no private resolution. Just then, Assistant Principal Marcus Reed entered the office with a tablet, his face grave. He discreetly showed Principal Parker a video of the incident, which was already circulating among the students. As reporters began to gather outside the school, Keller panicked and called for police backup. Vanessa stepped in, warning him for further intimidation. As Vanessa and Zaria prepared to leave, Marcus Reed slipped Vanessa a USB drive. It contained the crucial security camera footage from the hallway, which he had copied before it could be accidentally deleted. As Vanessa and Zaria left the principal's office, they were met by a crowd of students and staff. 3 police officers responding to Keller's call for backup had also arrived. The lead officer, Sergeant Morales, was reviewing the video evidence that students were already sharing on their phones. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, he pulled Keller aside to speak to him privately. Within the hour, the video, expertly edited by a student with the hashtag Justice for Zaria, went viral, garnering over 50,000 views in the first 60 minutes. National civil rights organizations took notice, and the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division reached out to Vanessa's law firm. At the urgent care center, a doctor meticulously documented Zaria's injuries, including a mild concussion, lacerations, and bruising, and confirmed that they were consistent with excessive force. Vanessa's law firm had already mobilized, with staff interviewing student witnesses and ensuring proper documentation was secured. The situation escalated when a crowd of protesters gathered outside the school, and Police Chief Robert Wilson arrived, only to be met with chants of "no justice, no peace." The most significant turn came from an unexpected source, Detective Sandra Morris from the Internal Affairs Division. She approached Vanessa at the urgent care center and revealed that she had been investigating Officer Keller for months for a pattern of excessive force that the department had been actively covering up. She gave her confidential file, explaining that she needed a lawyer with Vanessa's public platform to ensure the evidence couldn't be buried again. The school board called an emergency meeting, and the Washington family received a veiled threat over the phone from an anonymous caller, warning them to drop the case. The attempt at intimidation only strengthened Vanessa's resolve. She decided there would be no quiet settlements. She would expose not just one incident, but the entire system that protected and enabled such abuses of power. The battle had officially begun. 3 days after Vanessa rejected the settlement, the counterattack began. Officer Keller, backed by the police union, filed a $3 million defamation lawsuit against Vanessa and Zaria. The lawsuit accused them of fabricating a racial incident for political and financial gain. Simultaneously, a coordinated media campaign was launched, questioning Vanessa's motives and framing her as an activist attorney using her daughter as a pawn. The attacks grew more personal and threatening. A conservative blog published the Washington's home address and Zaria's school schedule, leading to a wave of hate mail and explicit threats. The family was forced to relocate temporarily to a hotel for their safety. As Vanessa's team investigated, they uncovered a tangled web of connections between West Ridge Academy, the police department, and local government. The school board had direct financial and personal ties to the mayor, whose family was connected to the police department's legal counsel. These connections explain the systemic efforts to protect Keller and Westridge from accountability. The pressure extended to witnesses as well. Students who had given statements to Vanessa's team were now being intimidated. Their parents received calls from the principal, who hinted that their children's college recommendations could be in jeopardy. 2 teachers who had corroborated accounts of Keller's behavior were suddenly put on performance reviews. The psychological toll on Zaria was immense. She broke down one night, pleading with her mother to just take the settlement and make it all stop. Vanessa held her, explaining that backing down now would only ensure that the next student would face the same injustice without anyone to stand up for them. Just as a few witnesses began to recant their statements under pressure, Vanessa and her team received key evidence from unexpected allies: Detective Sandra Morris's confidential file on Keller, Assistant Principal Reed's continued updates, and most importantly, the meticulous documentation from Principal Parker's executive assistant, Janet Abernathy, which proved a long history of buried racial incidents and a conspiracy to cover up wrongdoing. The case was no longer just about Zaria. It was about exposing an entire system of corruption. The discovery of listening devices in Vanessa's office marked a turning point. A professional sweep revealed not only bugs in her office and home, but a hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector with a direct view of Zaria's study area. This act of illegal surveillance, a clear targeting of her daughter, transformed Vanessa's professional resolve into a fierce personal crusade. Recognizing that her opponents were growing desperate, she called an emergency meeting with her legal team. They've shown us how high this goes and how desperate they are. Now, we show them that's exactly why they can't win. The next morning, Vanessa and her team went on the offensive. They filed a federal civil rights lawsuit, naming not just Officer Keller, but also Principal Parker, the school board, the police chief, and the mayor as defendants in a conspiracy to violate civil rights and obstruct justice. They also requested an FBI investigation into witness tampering and illegal surveillance, bypassing local law enforcement entirely. 3 months later, the trial began in the imposing federal courthouse. The trial was assigned to Judge William Harris, who had a reputation for favoring law enforcement and institutions. The defense, led by the powerful attorney William Harrington, focused on portraying Zaria as a difficult and confrontational student, a characterization that was immediately disproven by her flawless academic and behavioral records. The prosecution's case was methodical and damning. Student witnesses testified to what they had seen, while medical experts confirmed Zaria's injuries were consistent with excessive force. The most dramatic moment came when Assistant Principal Marcus Reed, risking his career, testified to Principal Parker's discriminatory directives. The defense's case took a significant hit when a new video, found from a science classroom's camera, conclusively proved that Zaria had not acted aggressively before the assault. Officer Keller's testimony was a disaster for the defense. Under Vanessa's expert cross-examination, he contradicted himself and grew defensive when confronted with the statistical evidence of his racial profiling. The defense's case crumbled as key witnesses, including Assistant Principal Reed and Officer Keller himself, failed to discredit the evidence. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the trial's outcome was uncertain. Judge Harris's rulings consistently favored the defense, limiting the scope of testimony about systemic issues and allowing personal attacks on Zaria. Vanessa's team prepared for a potential appeal, knowing that regardless of the verdict, they had already exposed West Ridge's discriminatory practices to a national audience. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned with the verdict. They found in favor of the Washington family on every significant count, including excessive force, civil rights violations, and a pattern of discrimination. While the jury didn't award the full punitive damages requested, the verdict was a monumental victory. Yet the victory was short-lived as the defendants immediately filed an appeal, and the judge granted a stay of the orders. What should have been the end of the fight was just the start of another chapter. The true turning point came 3 days later when Vanessa received a call from the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. An official informed her they were opening a formal pattern and practice investigation into both the police department and West Ridge Academy. The federal inquiry changed everything. Witnesses who had been intimidated before now came forward. Detective Sandra Morris was reinstated, and her findings were validated by federal investigators. They discovered her suspension was a deliberate effort by the police chief to derail her investigation. The Justice Department's investigation revealed a much broader conspiracy than a single incident. The school secretary's documentation, previously excluded by the trial judge, became the foundation for a comprehensive federal case. The most stunning development was the discovery of undisclosed financial ties between the trial judge, William Harris, and a foundation linked to the police union. This led to a judicial misconduct investigation, and the case was reassigned to Judge Claudia Ramirez, a widely respected civil rights expert. Under the new judge, the verdict was upheld, and the Washingtons were awarded full punitive damages. Judge Ramirez issued a comprehensive order requiring West Ridge Academy to implement sweeping reforms, including anti bias training, revised disciplinary procedures, and an independent oversight committee. For Officer Keller, the consequences were severe and career ending. His law enforcement certification was revoked, and he and two superior officers faced criminal charges for civil rights violations. Principal Parker resigned to avoid termination, and the school board, facing intense public pressure and legal jeopardy, reversed their support for her. The case even sparked legislative changes, with the state passing the Student Civil Rights Protection Act. While Zaria's return to West Ridge was not possible, she thrived at a new school. The experience had shaped her future, and she now planned to study constitutional law, inspired by her mother's example. She founded a student organization called Know Your Rights to empower other teenagers. Her healing continued as she transformed her trauma into advocacy. 1 year after the verdict, Zaria was invited to address the student body at West Ridge Academy by the new principal, Dr. Alicia Johnson, the school's first Black female administrator. Zaria stood at the podium and spoke with a steady, clear voice, telling the students that what happened to her was not an isolated incident, but the product of a broken system. She emphasized that systems can change when people have the courage to hold them accountable. After her speech, Zaria's emotional journey came full circle. She reflected on the terrifying moment she was slammed against the lockers and the subsequent fight. When her mother asked if she regretted not taking the settlement, she paused. It would have been easier, she admitted, but acknowledged that the harder path led to real, systemic change. Their journey was a powerful lesson in perseverance and the importance of holding institutions accountable. It was a fight that cost them their peace and privacy for a time, but in return, it gave countless future students a shield against injustice. Zaria's experience and her mother's legal strategy proved that documentation, from student videos to security footage and meticulous records kept by allies, is crucial when confronting injustice. The case also highlighted how institutions, including schools and police departments, often close ranks to protect themselves rather than addressing wrongdoing. The opposition used intimidation, surveillance, and character assassination to silence the Washingtons. But Vanessa's unwavering determination exposed the rots at the system's core. The victory wasn't just a legal one, it was a societal one. It led to lasting reforms, new legislation,